Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address presented by pucksandpitchforks.com. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with the editor-in-chief of that fine website, Nick Villano, streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, paying the $22 to be on X Live and Twitch on the Let's Go Devils Network, coming to you live from the Primetime Radio Studios in North and South Jersey bunkers, where if the world was wiped out, there'd still be, I don't know, taxes, cockroaches, and a podcast called the Let's Go Devils Podcast, talking Devils hockey. That's right. 50 days to Prague. We're about to embark on the regular season. Seeing some people filing in to the chat. Sorry about Sunday night. I just was not in the right frame of mind to be talking Devils hockey because I'd be talking gibberish last Sunday. But I'm better now. But Nick, lots to talk about. But I wanted to offer you a suggestion.
Mm-hmm.
Next season, you should have 2 Devils jerseys behind you for your background.
Well, I used to. Remember that?
Yeah. I think we need to get back to the olden days.
You don't know this, but we're about to get real bunker with the bunker. So when we bought this house, obviously, you know, we bought this house. We moved to New Jersey. We lived in 2 Airbnbs and a hotel over 3 months because I lost the house and whatever. So my wife was also pregnant at the time. So it was just a lot. I started a new job. It was just a lot. So when we came here, the original idea was to do the podcast in the attic, but Sam came down and we tested some things and didn't really work. You came down again because we were going to try it in another room. Didn't really work. So we had to do it in the living room. Well, lovely previous owners of ours just like drilled a bunch of holes in all the walls across the house. And I spent a lot of time filling a lot of holes. But we haven't done, this is like our living room. We haven't done this room yet. So there's literally just a screw in the wall. I was like, I'm going to hang a jersey from it. And I don't feel like putting another screw in the wall. So I haven't put the second jersey up yet. But when we go in the basement and we test some things, we make sure everything works, there's legitimately a white background that I could do the podcast up against. We haven't done it in there yet because, again, lovely previous homeowners of ours just left a bunch of broken wood down there that I haven't felt like sifting through. But eventually I'm just going to take it and junk it. And then I'll have my spot for the podcast, and I'll probably make that my home office as well, just because right now I'm in the attic, and the attic's like 100 degrees sometimes in the summer. We bought an air conditioner unit for it, even though I have central air, but you know, it's those little units can only do so much. Anyway, that is why we've gone from the double jersey to the single jersey.
I was just wondering, you know, actually I'm no better because when I moved, you know, when during the pandemic in 2020, I actually moved, bought a new place.
I feel like, see if I do this, it doesn't look as bad.
Oh, okay, all right. That looks, your camera feed looks, no, that's good. No, for me, you know, I moved during the pandemic, and, you know, things were moving pretty fast. You know, moving sucks. Home ownership, that's the sucky part about home ownership, is moving all your crap into your new place because you have to, like, you know, make it your own, some renovations, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I just realized when I was telling you making fun of you that you didn't have that nice background. I realized my background, the studio that I actually do this in the bunker, I really never spent that much time on my background, my backdrop, because I just threw some stuff together myself, and it's been like that since 2020. I should probably upgrade.
Where's the Ranger sucks thing?
It's somewhere. I think I put it away for now, just because
No, that's fine. I was curious.
But before these Ranger fans start, live streaming our feeds because they envy us.
They want to share if they want to share my message, let's.
Yeah.
I say let them speak it to the masses.
Yeah. So. Anyway.
We have a lot of topics we could go on. There's been quite a bit has happened in hockey, and a lot of it is driving conversations about what past and present for the Devils. Obviously the Devils re-signed Nolan Foote this week, which means all they have left is Dawson Mercer. And a lot of people are talking because the lovely Stan Bowman, that was sarcastic, in Edmonton now has to make a decision on two restricted free agents because the St. Louis Blues gave offer sheets to Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway, two former first-round picks that haven't really lived up to the hype, but have shown promise of some kind. So everybody's now talking like, oh, our offer sheet's back, and you look, and there's quite a few players that aren't signed, but a lot of them are either too much of a risk, or they're in that threshold where you have to give up in too much in compensation. Like I'm assuming a lot of people would love to have Jeremy Swayman on the team, but on top of the contract you're going to give him, you're going to give multiple first-round picks to the Boston Bruins. So it doesn't really work. That being said, are you at all worried that maybe some teams are looking at Dawson Mercer sideways after seeing these two offer sheets go to Edmonton?
I think, Nick, that it all depends, because the monies that were offered to these two players, if I remember correctly, weren't really big money offers. Am I correct? We're talking about 2 to 3 range. Mercer, if you're going to get Dawson Mercer to sign an offer sheet, it's got to be really good. It's got to be really good, where it would be above asking price of what the Devils would pay Dawson, and the compensation going the other way to the Devils. So I'm thinking what would take Dawson Mercer to sign with another team as a restricted free agent? I think you would have to be in the astronomical high $4 to $5 million mark.
You consider that astronomical?
For Dawson Mercer at this point, because you can get him a lot lower if you're the Devils.
A lot? What do you think he's going to sign for?
I think he's going to do a bridge deal.
Even a bridge deal, I think he's getting 4.
I was thinking high 3s, maybe 4.
I could see that.
Yeah,
maybe he signed. What was that Zaka deal? It was like 3 by 3.4 or something.
But we're talking about Dawson Mercer leaving potentially a promising potential Stanley Cup contender to go to another team. If I were Dawson Mercer, it's got to be some silly money to do that. And then if it's silly money, that means the team has to offer compensation to the Devils, which would be steep. Am I right on that, or am I wrong on that?
I'm trying to find the compensation levels.
Yeah, because if Mercer's looking for 5 or 6 million, and the Devils they don't have to give it to him. The Devils actually have all the leverage here, because honestly, if Dawson Mercer wants, I don't know, 6 million a year, I'd be like, you're out of your mind.
I mean, the Devils can't pay that. They don't have $6 million.
Yeah,
to pay him.
exactly. But at the same time, if another team were to offer, that kind of money, I let Dawson walk and get the compensation out of it.
Before they signed Brendan Dillon, I thought there was a non-zero chance they gave him an 8x6 and just lock him in. The way that Tom Fitzgerald spoke about him at the end of the season, just his impact over the first 3 years of his career. Yeah, he did not have a good year last year, but he's, the Rangers fans are talking about like Lafreniere, like he's, the next big thing, and he's broken out and he's a star now, and Mercer and him have the same, I think it's the same game score, basically, like they're like 0.1 or 0.2 from each other. Mercer's still one of, like, I think he's 7th in game score in that entire draft, and like there's some flaws in game score, but it's at least like a benchmark. The kind of, especially in drafts, to like compare draft careers, it's a decent benchmark. This is a guy who hasn't missed a game from a team that's just been frazzled by injuries. This is a guy who I truly think Lindy Ruff completely mishandled last year. I thought Lindy Ruff did great with him the first 2 years. I thought he was using him like very intelligently. Last year, I think Lindy Ruff got desperate and really just made some lineup miscues. We saw it with Holtz, but at least there was like some excuse with Holtz, but it still didn't make much sense. And then we saw it with Mercer. Mercer was just not in like the best place in the lineup. He was always on the third line with like Holla and Palat, Lazar, and like I like those players, but just not with Mercer. I just think he has a much better spot to be in this lineup. I'm not even saying like the top 6. Like, he doesn't have to be in the top 6. But if you're not going to put him in the top six, you had to build the right 2 players around him. And I don't think the Devils are doing that. My point is that I do think he could be worth $6 million as soon as next season. He could be worth much more than that moving forward. He could be like this Zach Hyman type, right? Where it's this guy, he's not like a $10 million guy as far as skills are concerned, but he could be a $10 million guy as far as fit is concerned. He does a lot of the things that you want this team to do. I really think he's going to thrive under Sheldon Keefe. I think he's going to thrive under this new mentality, because this is a motor guy. This guy made it to the first round because he's a nonstop player. He gets goals and assists by simply working harder than everybody in the ice. And, something that you complained about a lot last year was going into corners, and that's not something you could ever say about Dawson Mercer. Like, he's always in the corners. He's always fighting to the last drop. And I truly think letting another team, even if you get like the compensation for $6 million would be a first and a third, which is fine. But if you're talking about like the Edmonton Oilers, like that's going to be like the 27th and 95th overall pick. Like Dawson Mercer is very likely going to be worth a lot more than that.
Yeah, I'm just saying that I don't think a team. Would you give up that much to get Dawson Mercer?
Oh, yeah. He's 22.
Would?
He's 22, a former 18th overall pick. He's had two very successful seasons and one kind of mediocre one. He's shown he could be a game breaker. Like, he's shown he reminds me of Jesper Bratt. In that I see it. I've seen him take
Yeah,
over
but
games by himself.
I'm just suggesting. I'm just asking on the likelihood that a team would be attractive because he still has to sign the offer sheet. It's not like they just offer to
Yeah, I
him.
think that's the other part. Would he sign it? I don't know. I don't think so. But I don't know. It all depends on if the Devils are offering him like 3, like it's like a 2-year deal at $3 million. And a team comes with this 4-year, $4.5 million deal. It's I don't know. It takes like I give it to like this Jalen Brunson situation where he left like $100 million on the table for the Knicks, and signed the extension this offseason. Those guys who leave money on the table because you don't want to take the risk, it could go either way, right? If Dawson Mercer comes out next year and breaks his leg in half, God forbid, knock on wood, he'd want that security. But if he comes out and gets 80 points, say he signs a 1-year deal and he scores 80 points, he's probably getting $8 million next year. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe not that much, but I don't know. Like both sides would all 3 sides would be taking chances if he signs an offer sheet, and
I think the bigger money for Dawson Mercer will come after this after this next deal.
Yeah,
and you want to be in a position to succeed. This is the Devils. Again, are at least on paper is a team that's positioned to succeed for the next 2 or 3 years. Where after this new deal, whatever it looks like, I think that's where he's going to get his big money.
And here's the thing: is that Tom Fitzgerald's been a pretty open book. He said some things about Holtz during the exit press conference that made you kind of perk up a little bit. You didn't think he was going to get dumped. And I'm not saying that Paul Carter's a dump, but like, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't get traded for equal value. But he said that Dawson Mercer was an integral part of the core, or he was something to that ilk. And I don't think you say that if you're just going to let a guy come in and just offer you a first-round pick. It's probably going to be late in the first round, and call it a day. I think that Mercer is going to sign soon. I think it's going to be done in the next 2 weeks. Fitzgerald is back from vacation. I don't know if he actually took a vacation, but that's the joke, is that all the GMs go on vacation. Nolan Foote signed. I'm sure he's putting the chess pieces together. We heard. Here's an interesting thought that I put out on pucksandpitchforks.com today. Did you hear 32 Thoughts today where they said that Dan McKinnon went deep into the negotiations to be the next Oilers GM?
Really?
I'd have to look at the timeline, but I wonder if that had anything to do with I think they hired Chuck Fletcher after the Oilers already hired their GM, but I wonder if those conversations happened before that. Like, they started talking to Fletcher as a guy who could come in and work under Fitz directly, but when McKinnon stayed, they liked what they saw from Fletcher, and they gave him a different job. I wonder if those two things are connected at all.
That's a good question. That's a question we could ask Tom Fitzgerald if we ever get him on this podcast.
We're working on things. We're as me and Sam have said, we're looking at the future of the state of the fan address, what that's going to look like going into the season, and we haven't had guests this summer because we wanted to reevaluate what's valuable to our fan base, but I think we'd rather wait until we can have more time with our guests. I think that's what we're going to do moving forward. So if we get Tom, if Tom comes on, we'll give him as much time as he allows us. But, we like the podcast where we sit with Bryce for an hour and we shoot the stuff and go back and forth. We like the times with Chico where we go for an hour. And, it's to get those, you have to be patient. You have to find the right timing. So we're gonna try to find those priorities from now on. We love like the Cam and Strick podcast. You've had Cam Jansen on the podcast, and he's been a great interview. Those are the types of things we're looking for. I don't know how we got here.
Well, I mean, we're talking about asking
getting
Tom
Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald. Yeah.
I just think it's interesting when I look at this front office. You've heard a lot of teams outside the Devils really keep an eye on what they're doing with the front office, and I was looking at the staff roster page today, and it's lengthy. Like it just seems lengthy to me. Like there's 6 people on the analytics team, there's 15 scouts, there's the coaching staff is on there, but like player personnel people are on the coaching staff technically. Like Megan Dugan, I think, was listed under the coaching staff, which I thought was interesting. And then Kate Madigan and Dan McKinnon are obviously like right on, in that executive level with Tom Fitzgerald, and so is Martin Brodeur. Like there's a lot of Chiefs. And we've seen this work before, and I think it's working because I think Tom Fitzgerald is pretty. It's pretty clear that like Tom Fitzgerald hired these people. He's in charge, and then you add Chuck Fletcher to the mix. But I truly do think that a lot of these people are going to continue to get these interviews for these jobs elsewhere. And I'm very curious if, like say McKinnon got hired in Edmonton, would he pilfer the Devils front office, or would he just keep what was already there in Edmonton? Like, would he try to get Madigan to come over, or Dugan, or Tyler Dello, or Matt Cain, or like there's a lot of really good, smart people in this front office. Would Dennehy follow him? And what if Madigan gets a GM job? What if Dugan gets a promotion somewhere else? Like there's going to be a time where I think there's a reason why Tom Fitzgerald has built it this way. And he's kind of building his roster the same way. He's always built his coaching staff the same way. Where if something happens, there's a next man up mentality. He did it with the coaching staff with Brunette, and then last year with Travis Green. He does it with his roster where he tries to build smart depth. Doesn't always work, but he tries to like Kovacevic is a perfect example of a guy that like I wrote earlier this week about whether the Devils would consider being like a regular 11-7 team, like 11 forward, 7 defensemen, just because of how much talent they have on defense. But I really think that's not the goal, because that's not. Sheldon Keefe has never really liked that. He's done it a couple times, but he's been vocal about saying it's not his favorite thing. I think what they were trying to do is just say, I want to make sure that an injury is not going to derail the season. Whether it's Jack Hughes, whether it's Dougie Hamilton, whether it's Brett Pesce, whether it's Jacob Markstrom, like they want depth at these positions. And again, like I said, it hasn't always worked out. They attempted to do something last year with the goaltending. Like, we completely forget, Sam, that he built depth in the goaltending. We thought we went 5 deep in goaltending last year. He signed Eric Kallgren and Keith Kincaid. They just happened to be awful in the AHL. Like, gaslightingly terrible. And they couldn't, there's no way you could bring them in the AHL. But he made those signings so he had depth at goaltending. And then you also had Nico Dawes coming back. And I think there's one. I guess Brandon was the other guy. I thought there was one other name, but I think I'm mistaking myself. So he thought he was going to have depth at goaltending, and it just turned out everybody stunk. Everybody. He tried to do it on defense, it didn't work. But now I truly think I am curious. I wrote about this earlier this offseason as well. I wonder what they're going to do with Hataka. Because here's the thing, Sam. So the Devils go to Prague. Sorry, I just hit the mic. The Devils go to Prague in 50 days from tomorrow. Or they'll go to Prague like earlier than that. most teams are still like in their preseason at that point and can give guys a couple day tryout. Terry Hataka is not waiver exempt this year. He has to go through waivers to go to the AHL. So does that change how the Devils are going to manage the roster? I also wrote about this earlier. I've wrote about a lot. You know, I've written a lot of articles, Sam. I wrote about the Devils already have too many players on the roster if you include Dawson Mercer. Someone has to go somewhere because with Curtis McDermott and Nolan Foote, and Nolan Foote has a two-way, but I got to double check. I know I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think he's waiver exempt either. I think he has to go through waivers to get to the AHL, and I think someone will claim him. I think someone would give him an NHL shot. And then you have the two defensemen, Kovacevic and DeSimone, and then you have Nathan Bastian coming back. And you only have 3 spots for those 4 players as extras. With some, one of them, or did I name 5 players? I named 5 players. So you have 4 spots. You have the 3 extras and then 1 forward spot. So someone has to go somewhere. And that's not including Hataka. So there's a non-zero chance that this preseason's a bloodbath for this roster, and you lose 2 very valuable players.
Could happen. Like you said, Devils have a lot of players on that bottom 6, especially, and some of the depth on defense.
I wonder, and I wrote about this about McDermott, and we talked about this on the podcast already about how I think they'll just send down McDermott because they don't think anybody's going to claim him for that price. But the Devils claimed him, so I could be wrong. But then there's Bastian, who makes not a lot, but what does he make? 1.4? It's not nothing.
Yeah, it's a 1-year deal.
Right. Do I think somebody will claim Bastian? I don't know. They might not. So they might start with Bastian in the AHL. What do you think?
I think he would be in the opening night lineup. Bastian. I think it's going to evolve because I think a lot of it is going to be evaluation period, the first 10 games with Keefe. And especially with the European series and those 2 games, I don't think the real season starts. Even those games do count in the standings. The real season doesn't really start till October 10th, in my mind. So it's kind of like a glorified preseason. Yeah, it's nice. It's it counts, those games out in Prague, but from that perspective, I mean, who are you going to send out to Europe and who stays behind? I think they're still playing preseason games, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. The Flyers have preseason games.
Yeah.
The Rangers have preseason games. Here's the other thing. I haven't thought about this. Do you go to Prague with less than your ideal lineup to get guys, quote unquote, sent down? This, I'm only saying this name because I know for a fact that he's waiver exempt. Do you send down Luke Hughes to the AHL, knowing they're just doing training camp at that point? And when you come back from Prague, before you play your next, game on U.S. soil, you call them back up, and then when everybody's sending people through waivers and everybody needs the rosters to be airtight, that's when you send down a Nolan Foote, or that's when you send down a Hataka, or that's when you send down probably, I'm guessing it's Foote at this point.
I don't think it'll ever happen.
Is there a lesser player? Not less. That's a bad word, but
Well, I mean, you were talking about Luke Hughes. I mean, you would want him in your opening night lineup out in Europe.
Right. I was gonna say Nemitz, but they're not gonna take that away from the kid. Like the kid's from that area, like a roundabout, and he's from Slovakia, right?
Yeah, Slovakia.
So it's like right next door to Czechia. Like you're not gonna take this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for him. You're not gonna take that away from the kid. But I would wonder if like what if they send down Mercer? I don't know if I think he's eligible.
I think you're getting
again like
you're too crazy. You're getting too crazy with these ideas.
Listen, like I'd rather lose, and you're not going to do it to Mercer just because he has the streak, like the games played streak. But I'd rather go 2 games without Luke Hughes. 2 games you still should win. You should still beat the Sabres. I'm not saying the Sabres are terrible, but like I don't think Luke Hughes is the difference between these 2 rosters.
Lindy's going to make us pay. You heard it here first.
Here's the thing: is that I'm not like going to lose my mind over the first 2 games of the season. Maybe we should go over there and chant "Fire Lindy" again.
Would that be funny?
It would be pretty funny.
That would be hilarious. He's like, glad I'm out of that freaking team.
Right. I'm just like I'm just not sure what Fitzgerald's going to do with this roster. Like this is not an easy decision this year.
Also, just remember, Nick, the unpredictable might happen. There could be injuries in preseason. It does happen occasionally.
And that would, it's as weird as this sounds, that would solve other problems.
Yeah. Injuries are bound to happen. I mean, they happened all last season.
Yeah, right. Nolan Foote didn't play because he got injured in preseason. Colin Miller got injured in preseason. Did Bastian get injured in preseason? I feel like one other person got injured in preseason. There was one other person. Either way, maybe it was Lazar. I can't remember. There was another person injured. It's one injury.
No
really.
Sick. No sick. Thank you.
Oh yeah, no sick. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was never the same. One injury takes a decent amount off Tom Fitzgerald's play, and you don't want them to be severe, but like, if you could put a guy on IR for 2 weeks, just to give you some breathing room, I do think it makes life.
Well, I was just saying that this is where Mark Stone would come in handy.
Right. I was like, I didn't say the C word. Why are you upset with me? Yeah, I mean, listen, I think the Devils really want. I don't know what they want. It's this roster was built very. I'm trying to like put my finger on it. They built depth into it, but with depth and with the kind of depth that they want, where like there's some certainty to it, comes risk of waivers, right? Like you can't. If you don't want to build with entry-level contracts, you want to build with veterans, and you run out of room, you could lose them for nothing. And, yeah, I'm curious I'm curious of what, like, this Prague game. And I wrote about this, too, about how this Prague game really made life hard for Fitzgerald. Because, A, he has to build a roster that has to play a preseason game. I think it's the night before that opening game in Philadelphia, right? It's the night before, right? Like the 3rd.
Yeah, I think I remember.
You need a full roster. And, like, you can put the AHL roster out there, but the very next day is when opening night rosters are due, right? You have to do it day of or is it the day before?
I don't remember.
I think it's day of. So they can get through that game and then send the world through waivers. But like that's just going to be that day is going to be psychotic. Like who's going to be on that team? I said they should sign Phil Kessel just because it would be fun. Let him play in the preseason. Put on a Devils jersey. It'll be one of those fun stories in the future.
Dollar hot dog night.
Yeah, I mean, like, and then honestly, like, talk to him. Be like, you know, you can play in the AHL if you want. He's great. You know, he seems like a great locker room guy. He seems like he'll take any role. He is won Stanley Cups. He's been out of the league for 2 years. He won what? Did he win with the Penguins?
Of course he did.
Yeah, I thought so. And then he won with Vegas. He didn't play much with Vegas, but he won. So I think like these are the things that I think of. Like, why not? What do you have to lose? You know, if you're up front with the guy, like there's no disrespect there. If you're clear with your expectations, like here, if you think you're an NHL player, we'll give you a PTO. Show the world you're an NHL player. And then somebody will give you a contract. You know, we'll cut you loose at the end of it, and you can go get a contract, or you can play in the AHL, like your choice, and you could try to earn your spot back. You know, it all depends on like what kind of ego this guy has. This is a former, you know, top star in this league.
We lost Nick. We lost Nick. Something got disconnected. But Nintendo Wii says, do you think keeping Lindy's assistants is his way of testing them to see how they adapt to his new system? Thank you for the super chat.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I think I don't love it. If you remember, Lindy kept Nasruddin.
Mm-hmm.
And Nasruddin was gone. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, he was gone with, like, a year later, right? He went to another team for the same job.
Yes.
Or maybe a lesser job. I don't know if he got that assistant head coach role. You saw Keefe at least brought in Colton, who I think is going to really help. I like Colton as a coach. I think that he's going to be a head coach again one day. I think he was just in a terrible situation in Chicago and was really professional with how he handled it. Yeah, I know everybody's up in arms about the goalie coach, but they signed Manny Legacy to be in the front office, which I'm trying to figure out why you would do that if you have Rogalski and you believe in Rogalski. And it tells me that I just don't think they believe in him. So to answer your question is no, I don't think they did that to see if they work in their system. I think that it is like they have the hottest seats in this organization is Rogalski and is it Taylor? Why the guy the defense? Yeah. Is it? He's the defensive guy from the Knights, right? Why is my brain broken?
No, Ryan McGill.
Ryan McGill. Wow. Sorry about that. Those are the two guys in this organization with the hottest seats because they both failed last year. Both of them. Devils fans argued the most about whether it's the defensive fault or the goaltending's fault, and the conclusion I came to is it's both. The defensive system was awful, and I've said this on every single podcast, I think, since for a year. The defensive system was the reason why the season went so bad, on top of a myriad of other reasons, including the goaltending. But the goals, like, this guy, Rogalski, hasn't been able to develop a goaltending with consistency. Mackenzie Blackwood had all the talent in the world, and now can't get it out of his own head. Vitek Vanacek had that great season and then had one bad playoff series and was never the same. Nico Dawes can't stay consistent. Akira Schmid can't stay consistent. The list goes on and on with Rogalski. I was surprised he still has a job. Like with the Devils. I think somebody else would give him a job. But I truly think you brought in Manny Legacy to put a little pressure on him. And if it doesn't work out, like the Devils could be 20-6. But if Fitzgerald's not liking what's going on with the coaching, I think he sends Legacy down there. I think he'll just flip-flop positions and send Rogalski to the front office. And if he doesn't like it, there's the door. He does have 2 veteran backstops right now. But the contract that Nico Dawes got this offseason shows that they want him to develop. And hopefully he can do that in the AHL. But you need good goalie coaching to make sure that these guys develop. Or you're just going to be in this position again next year and the year after. And the year after that, and the year after that, and the year after that. Like, you want a sustainable goaltending strategy moving forward. And if Dawes isn't the guy, then you hope this McHale guy they got in the second round is the guy. If he's not the guy, then I don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, I think Legacy is really there for the overall scope of goalie scouting and also goalie development and what's at the present with the club. So, they're going to have to work in tandem together for now.
Were you like at all like surprised at that hire?
I mean, I always liked Manny Legacy as a player when he played in the NHL. I thought he was always solid behind either. I think Chris Osgood. I think he played.
He played a little bit behind Hasek too, right?
Yeah. So, again, Tom Fitzgerald trying to get a different perspective, in the room, and I think all those hires are somewhat. Again, it's hard to gauge if it's going to be a success story or not, but they're credible people, knowledgeable folks who have spent time in the NHL. Those hires recently. So I don't know. I wouldn't put saying that it's going to change our season around, but I think the Devils have all the resources in place.
Okay. Yeah, I think again they're built with depth up and down this organization. So I agree with you. I think they're in a good place.
On paper, at least. On paper.
And here's the thing. I saw a chart that showed the teams. It's like a chart. And there's like those 4 quadrants. And on the top axis is teams built to win in the future. And then on the right axis, it was teams built to win now. So the teams in the top right corner are the teams built to win in the future and built to win now. And then obviously in the bottom left corner, it's not built to win now and not built to win in the future. Just terrible asset management. The Devils were in the top right. The only team, and they were like slightly ahead of them, is the Dallas Stars. Ahead of the Colorado Avalanche, ahead of the New York Rangers, ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights. And I don't know how much the Knights are going to be considered built to win in the future, but the Avalanche were considered like the next dynasty in this place. A lot of these teams were with all these young superstar talent. Like look at Edmonton. Like Edmonton's not there. Florida Panthers aren't there, who just won the Stanley Cup. So the Devils are built to last. It's just I just think I truly wonder if you flipped 22-23 and 23-24, what would have happened? Like how we would look at the expectations. Because I think people were just last season was such a bummer. And I think people just don't want to deal with it. So a lot of Devils fans still have a sour taste in their mouth and won't trust this roster until they see it happen on the ice. And there's some credence to that. Like, I don't blame them.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's that there's two. I don't know if these are proper terminologies, but there's two factors. There's that that post-traumatic part of being screwed by this team, and a little bit of Stockholm syndrome, a little bit where you're just kind of like, oh, I'm just used to this craziness, so to speak.
Right.
I'm not sure if I used the right analogies. Probably shouldn't have even used it, but you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I get it. That's all I got, though, Sam. I think
it's time to plug, but before we do that, I just want to say hello to everybody in the YouTube Live. Brian is chatting it up. Andy A says, hi, guys. Great to see you on. Ted, Chris Boker, on Nintendo Wii with the Super Chat.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, and Facebook Live as well. David Decker, Michael
I
Hay.
love Decker.
Yeah, Town Toyota.
This guy bought a car, I saw.
Yeah, he bought a Toyota Tacoma, brand new, at Town Toyota.
Truck.
Yeah, in Route 46 in beautiful Edgewood, New Jersey. David Decker. Yes, that David Decker who hooks up the podcast. So, Nick, if you ever wanted to buy a Toyota, if you want to surprise, your wife, those Lexus commercials where they have a bow around Christmas time, but screw the Lexus. Get a Toyota out of David Decker. Great deals, great financing. I told the story how he got my wife a Toyota during the pandemic when there was there was supply chain issues, and he just took it off the floor. He said, "Yo, it's sold." But really, he just would put it on hold for us for a day.
We love that.
Yeah.
We love David Decker.
Yeah, of course. All right. Go ahead. Plug away, because I got to plug some stuff.
PucksandPitchforks.com. We have, I've been writing up a storm lately. Last night, I put up a story on the 5 luckiest outcomes in Devils playoff history. One example is the time where the Ottawa Senators forgot that Jeff Friesen existed. He scored the series-winning goal in Game 7 because they put 2 men on Grant Marshall, who already had a series-winning goal that season. So things like that. Avoiding Boston in 2012. The Devils were 0-3-1 against Boston in the 2011-12 season. They would have lost against Boston in the playoffs. I'd put my soul on that. I knew going into that season that you had to avoid Boston, and that was the year that Boston got upset by Washington, who was the 7th seed at the time. Like that's the type of stuff we're talking about. The luckiest outcomes in the history of Devils playoffs. Jennifer Streeter is a new writer, and she's working on a really interesting piece. I don't want to tease the entire thing because it's not out yet, but just taking a look at our fan base and kind of some of the changes that are happening within the fan base. She actually interviewed a couple fans and got some answers from the Devils themselves. So thank you to the Devils for getting us some of those answers. So that's going to be coming out soon. Luke Garrison's coming out with a piece every single day. He's going to talk about the number of days till the Devils season and kind of what corresponds with that number. Like yesterday it was 52. We talked about the 52 game or the franchise record 52 wins that we had in 22-23. Sometimes it's jersey numbers. We'll talk about how that person got the jersey number. A bunch of different things, and I'm just gonna be writing up a storm, guys. I got everything. There's so much coming out. I can't even list it all. I have one coming out tonight that I'm kind of excited about, but I don't want to tease it too much because I want to make sure that I can deliver on it. But go to pucksandpitchforks.com tonight, tomorrow, the next day. There will be new content. New articles every single day.
Well, you corrected yourself, but you had to get that C word, that jab in there, in the end there.
I fixed it.
All right.
Do you know how much I have to edit my own work?
I'm not content with that. Get it? Anyway.
You're fine.
Yeah. Wimpy. Okay, so Brian is actually Wimpy. I know Wimpy. He's the guy that, in the third period that goes, 5 minutes to go. Anyway.
I'm aware of who you mean.
Yeah. So, a couple things I need to plug. JoinOurCrew.com. Yes, JoinOurCrew.com. Because the podcast is going to be on the road this year. Maybe not Prague. It all depends because it's hard to get these days off to go out, halfway around the world to follow the team. Also, opening night, October 10th. Be there, be square. We'll be on the big stage at American Whiskey, 51 Edison Place. We're going to restart our full coverage very soon, next month. Of the Let's Go Devils podcast, pretty much a podcast a day. We'll keep the doctor away. Hopefully the Devils will be injury-free. You like how I put that there, Nick? Anyway,
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, joinourcrew.com for the latest of what we're going to be doing. We're building up a database right now so we can mobilize our fans when we do these live events. Plus, and Crew Brew. Another batch is probably going to be made in September. We'll keep you updated on that. That's about it for me. I'm going to be traveling this weekend, Nick, to near your alma mater, West Virginia.
Oh, really? I'm going to Pittsburgh this weekend. It's funny.
Oh, okay.
We'll both be there.
Yeah, we'll both be there? I don't know. Be there or be square? Anyway. It's going to be a busy weekend for both of us. Anyway, enough about our personal lives. I want to thank you, the fans, tuning in, dropping the podcast at midnight. Remember, go to pucksandpitchforks.com. Till next time, let's go Devils.